Robots Radio presents...
Today's chat is brought to you by the support of all our Twitch subscribers. Through the patronage you provide the Focus Fire chat team through the Twitch platform, we are able to provide you with the weekly podcast as well as the website and other aspects of Focus Fire chat. If you have any interest in becoming a subscriber of the FFC and gaining access to some exclusive features over in the Discord server, please be sure to visit our Twitch account and click on the subscribe button. If you're an Amazon Prime member, remember that you do have a free subscription to Twitch every month that can be used for this. And for those of you who are already subscribers, thank you again for your generosity.
Welcome to Focus Fire Chat. Explore together.
Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on January 8th, 2021 over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat as we continue our discussion over the Deep Stone Crypt raid. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the advanced session of the week's exploration. Congratulations to those who have signed up for a deeper dive. Before we go any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of who all we have with us on the show. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86.
And this is the I will not sing anymore on the show for fear of DMCA green-eyed music lover.
This is still, hey, it's working. I don't have anything. We were talking about my DMCA strike that I had on Twitter last week and it was really sad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Great start to an episode, but...
Yeah, I'm still not fired, by the way.
You're still not fired. Chat has approved that.
Struck, but not fired. So
things are moving in this show notes, and I don't know where they're.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm just prepping Orchid for her special announcement / weekly shill.
Oh, okay. If you'd be so kind as to visit thelorenetwork.com. Where you can find us alongside many impressive lore content creators, and also let us know your thoughts on the weekly lore roundups, both on YouTube and the podcast lore roundups. You can find both of those on Twitter, tweeted by @TheLoreNetwork or @FocusedFireChat. Also, I am reminding you to please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. Shut up, Blue.
Please remind Orchid to leave a 5-star review.
I have already left a 5-star review a long time ago, and then Blue found it and read it to me, and it was very embarrassing.
Oh, that's adorable.
So please leave us a 5-star review over on iTunes. It helps us so other people can find the podcast, and so other people can enjoy the lore that we talk about every single week. So that would really help us a lot. So thank you very much. Yep.
So we're gonna do a podcast on the raid, right?
Yes. The podcast on the raid that we did earlier was not a podcast on the raid, but what happens around the raid. So now we're gonna do the podcast on the raid, and I'm not gonna talk.
You're gonna talk a little bit.
That's fair. Okay. If you ask really nicely, I'll talk a little bit.
Okay. I'm asking nicely. Talk a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, so the raid starts out where you're in what's that? The north area on the map. It's the
Eventide.
Like by Bunker 15. What?
Eventide Ruins.
Yeah, the raid kicks off there, and you basically have to fight your way past a few captains that are a little bit overpowered, and then you eventually make your way to a platform that has a few pikes and this bubble. And when you leave the bubble, the bad things start to happen. Unless you know the glitch. And then nothing happens, and it's fine. You can just go get the sparrow real easy peasy, but I don't know if they actually got rid of that glitch.
They did not. You can still do it.
Yeah.
The bubble is similar to
I know how to
the exo simulation for survival, right?
What's that? It's the same tick as what you have in the exo simulation.
Okay, so bubble in a blizzard. Got it.
Freezing. Yeah. So you have to go from bubble to bubble, You defeat enemies as you get to the bubbles, and then you're finding your way through a wasteland that is very clouded, fogged over, until you find the front door to the Deep Stone Crypt. Mm-hmm. And that is basically the first encounter.
So it's just the goal is to work from bubble to bubble, avoiding the storm. There are icebergs that you have to jump over just to reach the end. Each bubble has a buff in it. See, I prepared myself for this, called Shelter.
You did.
From the storm. Yeah. And you get the frostbite debuff. You can actually get it. You can cheese it if you get the pike and you set it right outside the bubble and kind of like hop on it and then kind of like jump in and out of the bubble a little bit until you kind of like fool it into thinking that you're still in the bubble. And then jump out, and then then you won't have the debuff when you jump out of the bubble. You can also have the debuff, or you can cheese it and then just take your own sparrow and not take the pike, and then have your teammate go back and have them just bring all the pikes, so you don't have to. And then you can get retro causality, because that is what you get in the end if you bring all 6 pikes to the end.
Which is the sparrow, right?
Mm-hmm. It's a pretty neat little sparrow, actually, and the lore on it is really cool.
Yeah.
So how do you know that the lore on it's really cool, Orchid?
Because we did the lore in a little lore episode on Guardians of Lore, the other lore podcast that I am on.
Which you should totally go listen to, because it's actually... Is that the one that had Mrs. Hyven on it?
That is the one that we had Mrs. Hyven on. It was our New Year's episode, yes. She was trash.
It was pretty. It was fun. It was fun to listen to.
We don't have Mrs. Hyven on often enough after they left. Yeah. So it was good to have her back. Yeah.
But yeah, the first encounter is just finding the Deep Stone Crypt and making your way through the frozen wastelands of Europa with really no guide except for maybe seeing the bubble from a distance. But there's a storm going on the entire time. You're going to be taking damage most of the time unless you get the cheesy buff. And then you end up outside of the Deep Stone Crypt. Which, fun fact, this is the actual beginning of the raid. It is also the ending of the raid location.
This is true.
Spoilers.
Spoilers.
Is
it spoilers, though? If,
if they've never ran the raid like Blue, they wouldn't know that you go to the same place at the end.
This is true.
You just get there
So you go in a
quicker.
full circle is what you're saying.
Yeah, but you got to go to space to make the circle, though. So I don't know if it's really a circle if you're going to space and then coming back.
Up. Crash.
Is it a circle if space is involved?
Yes, it's just a 3-dimensional circle.
It's more
It's
of like a
sphere.
triangle. It's sphere.
Oh, like a pyramid.
No.
A ship, maybe.
This is
that
why
is
I'm
a
not allowed to
pyramid.
talk when we're talking mechanics.
Yep.
Viru and I have decided that the explanation for the entire process that you just explained is that the Guardians are the tapioca bubbles and bubble tea that the Fallen are trying to drink, and then we have to survive to get to the end of that that area.
But there's no straw.
That's because that's true.
There's no straw in this.
They're just trying
analogy.
to drink us. They're not. They're
that's
heathens.
awkward.
They're heathens.
On so many
If we're
levels.
exos, because we're already full of like the ganked up Vex juice, so does that mean that they're trying to drink our insides?
Radiolarian tapioca. There is technically a recipe for it.
Tangy? Maybe?
The pikes are the straw.
Yeah.
The pikes are the straw.
The pikes
for
are not
Viru.
a straw. The pikes are a vehicle.
This is why also I'm not allowed to talk, is because I derail mechanic talk.
You broke everything. We're going on to the next part. The next part is disabling the crypt security. Jeez Louise.
Oh, this is an important part too, because this ties into what we were talking about earlier in the last episode. So when we deactivate the security, that's what actually starts triggering the release of different areas within the normal playscape.
This is true.
Within the that security area, when you're first doing what are they called? The buffs, the augments? They're augments. You get two different choices for augments in that area. You have the scanner and you have what's the red one?
You have a scanner and operator.
Operator, thank you. Scanner can see where the operator needs to shoot. Operator can actually affect the thing. You have to basically manage locations because the operator has to go downstairs where nobody else can go, and the scanner has to stay upstairs and pass the scanning augment back and forth between the two areas, and then you eventually have to take out these Tesla coils, is what they remind me of. I don't know if that's actually what they are. They're fuses.
Yeah.
Oh, they're Tesla-ish. Take out the 3 fuses on each side, and then you are good to go into the next area. It's the basic mechanic that you're going to use through the entire raid, is the passing of these augments and managing them.
Right.
Yeah,
you actually you can actually see through all these little windows that are in the floor to be able to call out which ones are which when you're up above. But you'll be split into two teams a team of 2 and a team of 3, because one person has to be downstairs. So that's pretty much it.
That one's pretty easy. As far as lore goes, lore starts showing up after this. I think the first scannable, I think, is after this. The one with Elsie.
I believe so.
Yep, Blue's signaling to me via chat that hidden data log. Oh, green's on top of it. Yes.
I'm just trying to be unobtrusively helpful as I possibly can.
Is it the one that do you have them in order here? In the show notes?
I have them in order on the mind map, so it makes me want to say yes. Yes, ALB is the first one that I think. I think that's the first one. Pretty sure it is. Yes, this is in the order that I saw them in. Like when I was looking them up, watching someone who did a video of the different ones to get the transcript of them. This was the order in which they found them, so I'm assuming that it's the order in which they are discovered.
If not, we apologize in advance, and we will...
Yeah, if not, please let me know, and I'll update my notes on the map and on the notes, so that... Because, I mean, I have ALB, WIB, ANB, SCB, and then CLB is the order that I have them in.
Yes.
There's one on the... Doom's reminding that there's one out in the storm, so we're going to have 2 that we can go over now.
Yeah, okay, so maybe ALB is out in the storm?
It's possible.
I'm not sure.
We're going to go through all of them at any point. We're just going to kind of scatter them out a bit, because there's one out by the rock off to the right before... You have to veer off to the right to get the lore, but you have to go left to actually follow the path. And ALB says, and so here I am again in this damn crypt. I told myself I would never return, but I have to do it. I have to. Fun note, all of these are, are done in Elsie's voice. These are all by her, whether or not it's Elsie 1 or Elsie whatever number we're at now.
Right.
That was an interesting theory that I saw.
But Blue has a note in here on who is ALB. Does it stand for Alton Bray? Do you want to expand on that? Your theory on these all being related to the
literally
Brays?
that's me asking because I have no idea. That's the only difference in the designations. They all start with DSC-777-, and then every single one of them has a different 3-letter tag. Again, it's ALB, WIB, ANB, SCB, and CLB. Given, like, I mean, I'll be honest, they are so sparse that, like, I don't have any connections. The only thing I could come up with is that all of them end with B, so I was like, okay, well, maybe it's Braze. That is in Elsie's voice, so B is one of the few that is not listed. And so I just kind of was going through the known family tree of the Braze that we have. Alton is AL. I mean, this is me literally guessing. WI is Willa. We have Anna, Sylvie, and Clovis. But again, there's no
Alton never made it to Europa. Alton was never on Europa that we know of because he was in charge of the moon.
He was never invited to Europa. That is correct. I don't know if I feel comfortable agreeing that he never made it because of some of the stuff that Elsie talks to him about in the Deep Stone, in the gear lore. Alton is... I like the revelation that we get about Alton from the lore gear, because Alton is very much more aware of what is going on than we thought. Like he gets what's going on, and he's not happy about it. But he understands why certain things are being done much more than I think we had the feeling that Alton always struck me as kind of like the lazy kid in the background who was just like, whatever, no, he's actually got a really important job within the Bray Exo, or the Bray Corporation, I would argue. But like my problem here is, like, when you read the lines, there's no connection to, like, why is this Alton? Like,
there's also no connection really to the placement of where you find these.
Yeah, I mean, there was nothing that I could find. The only other thing I had noted was, like, could we have a note, and I tried to find this before we got on, and I couldn't. There's a note from Cade about a female exo who left notes around to help her remember her past resets. And Cade himself left things to help. I mean, that's where we get
cards.
Yeah. Well, and also journals, because he left things like, that's the whole theory about Ace, and my interesting theory about Ace ties into that. But like we have examples of exos leaving touchstones, if you will, to help remind them. So is this something that, like, Elsie did? Like did she hide them there for herself? Which then ties into the theory that this was the original Elsie, Elsie 1, that did this, because we know that Elsie 1 was the exo form that tried to blow up everything and got in trouble. She got a aerial strike called down on her by Clovis. So that would be, again, that would explain why these data logs are where they are. But again, like, I don't, given the context that I have currently access to, I don't see the placement of these different pieces of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm. Orca, do you want to read the second one real quick before we go on with the 8 tracks?
I would love to. So the next one is DSC 777WIB. Turns out he had plans of his own to keep running it himself, because of course he did. So
seems like Elsie's a little mad about Clovis doing his thing.
Well, and that feeds into
WIB is Willa Bray.
Yeah, that feeds into the theory that this is Elsie 1, because the reason she was trying to blow everything up was because she was pissed at what she'd found out about Clovis.
Right.
Do we have a tie-in for Willa on it then?
No. Other than WIB. Again,
yeah.
This is just me guessing. I have no idea.
It might just be like a wink and a nod to like the rest of the family members.
Right. That's kind of what I took it
what
as.
It looks like at this point.
Yeah, that's what I took it as.
Do we know why 777, besides it's Bungie's number, is the designation?
I assumed it was Bungie being cute.
Yeah, I did too.
Okay.
I mean,
okay.
DSC.
I didn't know if there was
no,
a legit
yeah.
thing or not.
DSC is obviously Deep Stone Crypt.
Deep Stone Crypt.
Yeah, 7. I assumed it was Bungie's fascination with 7. Like that's just what I took it as. If I'm wrong, again, okay. I'm more than open. If anyone has theories on that, I haven't seen any. More than happy to hear them.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. It's been about a month since I've done the raid, so is the next section clarity that we go to before we get to Atrax?
Yes. Yeah. So you have to after you get through security, you finally get through and you get into the darkened passage, and you see clarity control, big giant statue
that's breathing,
that's moving
or moving.
It's moving. It's fluttering in the breeze. 'Cause that's fun and not nightmare inducing.
You can get right up on her too.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. Yeah, you can get on top and look down on mountainous bosoms, or you can get underneath and
look up the skirt.
Yeah, I did both. To your left, if you are looking at the statue, you can go into the lab and you can see the same little artifact that you can find on the moon. The little, like, I called it a basketball the entire time during Shadowkeep, but the little like orb that you can get.
I didn't realize that. I missed that.
Yeah, that's in there. I have a screen cap of it actually somewhere on my computer. Oh, it's on my other one that got caught on fire. I don't have it anymore.
Oof. That's okay.
Yeah, my laptop is dead now. Actually, no,
there's also a recording in the clarity room that's up on the pipe.
Mm-hmm. There is, yeah.
That's above.
That is the third one.
Mm-hmm. And that is A and B, and it says, "Not to worry, I'm taking care of it now. In your memory." You have no idea whose memory.
Yeah, and that to me was another thing that I was like, well, she was fascinated with Anna and trying to save Anna, so I could. But then that
after everything.
Correct, and that's what I was about to say. But then that flies in the face of this being LC1 because that would not have happened yet. That's my again. Like I see the theory, but then I have conflicts. I don't know. I'm happy to hear thoughts on that. Real quick, just did a really quick Google search. Religious wise, 777 is referred to as perfect number, or 7 is referred to as a perfect number, 3 being the other perfect number. 777 represents within Christianity represents the threefold perfection of the Trinity. It also is often contrasted with the supposed number of the beast, if you will. Seventh seraph, Vriru is talking about this in chat. Seventh seraph, so biblical fashion of 777. There's a couple different like religious things. I think there's a tarot meaning of, I think it's significant change, I think is what it is. I'm not 100% sure on that one. So there's a lot of symbolism behind it, but I don't know technically if that's just it. I took it as just Bungie being cute. So
right,
okay. So chat won't be able to see this normal podcast, but in the clarity room, Orchid had just posted a picture of her or somebody's fire team looking at
Oh, it was me.
the statue. It was your team?
It was, yeah. I was,
Nice.
my friend Mikey helped me break into
Nice.
the raid, and we screen cap things separately so we could take a peep at stuff.
Yeah, there's the symbology all the way through the Clovis Bray facility that has the different parts of the body, the lungs, I think the heart, and it's all like digitized or like broken out to be more like a computer chip. The symbology in this room is it looks like the mind, or would you consider this creation? Because it's kind of, there's almost that deity rays with around the mind as if it's like the soul, or I don't know how you would describe it, but it is within this room.
Yeah, so what's that sorry, I was looking up something real quick. Dima Goryavanov is the person who was responsible for the EXO, like the concept of the EXO branding. And they have a quote that was explaining the inspiration to be reminiscent of the symbol for infinity, to represent exo immortality and the bond between soul and body, but at the same time, they wanted it to look like a link in a chain. Mm-hmm. So that's where like that digitization that you were kind of talking about was kind of coming from, was the logo that's on top of the logbook that we got in the collector's edition. That was kind of the inspiration of that. It's interestingly enough, it's inspired by Hajime Soriyama, the Aphex Twin, and Y2K visuals.
Cool.
There's really nothing else that happens in this room. It's just really creepy. And there's the one scannable. But after this is Atrax, right? This is the...
Yes.
This is the part where everybody in the raid on day one got angry.
So after you go through clarity control, there's a little tiny cutscene where you can smash your face against a window, and then you see, you see Atrax there.
I love that description.
What? You smash your face against a window because you got to make him angry, because it's like, knocking on a pet store window to irritate the birds or
like
something.
A fish tank.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah, and so you gotta irritate the Lixney. You gotta get them real excited, and then you see stuff happen, and then you have to actually go against Atrax, which focuses on actually dealing damage against Atrax's replicants, because of course Atrax can make multiple copies, which is super irritating. Mm-hmm. And it's still utilizing the same like scanner and operator augments that you have.
The scanner has to identify which Atrax you're actually going to attack.
Makes them glowy.
And then, it makes them glow yellow. And then the operator shoots the side panels for the the vents, right?
Yeah, like you get a debuff. And so you have to stand inside of the vent and then shoot it, and then they go into space, so you don't die. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes,
or you'll wipe and explode. Yep.
That buff, is that the same buff that happens later on too?
I
because
don't know. Maybe.
And you totally glossed over the facts that we see both characters right before we fight Atrax.
Oh yeah, we do.
Because Taniks you're knocking on the glass, but this time the guy inside knocks back.
Yeah, he does. And he breaks the glass a little bit.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's why it's like
it's a little intimidating.
Or like a zoo, but it's like a gorilla.
An angry zoo.
Yeah, I was at the
angry zoo with Taniks.
I was at
walking.
I was at the Omaha Zoo. I was there for the NCAA like baseball championship one year. seeing some friends play, and we were like seeing the gorilla, and like one came straight at us, and I was standing right there, and it just like tried to break the glass in my face. It's very scary.
They're intimidating.
They're super
powerful.
they're very scary. I did not like it.
Man,
Atrax is a gorilla.
As far as mechanics go in this area, or just the area itself, it's segmented. There's 2 or 3 different areas that you're dealing with. You're also dealing with multiple tiers. There's a bottom level and a top level that you're kind of dealing with, jumping around and making sure that you're finding the correct one to shoot. Is this the space that you go to space? This is the space that you go to space. Yeah, you can talk about it.
So, you want to split your team into 2, and so three lucky people get to go to space, and 3 lucky people do not, or unlucky people. So you always want to go to space because that's the fun part. Because you get to go in the elevator to space. So the Crypt team, which doesn't get to go to space. So the sad team. You have to go kill a vandal, and you get the
time out.
The sad team.
Time out. You do get to go to space. Just
not yet. So the sad team has to go kill a vandal, and you get to steal the operator augment, and then you have to put it in a little tube, and you send it to space. So space team goes and like defeats other things, and then they collect scanner, and then all this other stuff happens. So the scanner finally finds glowy Atrax. They defeat it, and they send it down, and then you find glowy Atrax, and you have to defeat it, and it's just kind of like a rinse and repeat thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you finally get like the debuff, so one of you have to go to space, so then you can like send it off, so you guys don't explode. It's and then you go back down. So it depends like who wants to go to space. So you get to go. It's kind of a rotating who's going to go to space and who isn't.
And some people have different styles with it. I think
that's how my team's done it, but I don't really raid.
I got to go to space and stay in space. Mm. I didn't have to go back and forth. But let's do a quick ad break real quick before we move on to one of my favorite parts of the whole raid.
That's my favorite part too.
Mm-hmm.
Hey there, my name's Jameson, or Big Cat.
And I am Brenna, or Mother Goose.
And together, we are the hosts of the DL, Weekly Gaming News.
Each week, we bring you the top stories from last week, as well as something you might have missed.
Our goal is to start a conversation about what's going on in the world of gaming.
And every week, we have a special guest join us in the chat room, where we discuss a different gaming-related topic and learn more about our guests in the 60-second download.
And if that isn't enough, we also have Slim Jims.
So come and hang out with us every week and join in on the conversation.
Good luck and have fun, everybody.
And remember, keep your goose loose.
And we're back, and we're going to discuss, since we just finished the Atrax portion, Atrax is defeated, and all of its replicants are disabled. Mm-hmm. And you go outside, and something starts talking to you. That something is the Clovis AI basically boo-hooing and saying it's all your fault.
He's not wrong.
Spacewalk with
he's not wrong that it's all our fault.
I mean, he does it in such a way where you're like, you were placing way too much blame on me for this.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just sitting here going, well, we did kind of cause most of this.
I mean, did we though?
In response to the problem, yes. It's a very standard Guardian response of, what? There's a problem? Blow it up.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. Like, though, granted, I can also see him being extremely drama queen about it, too. I definitely can understand that. But I do want to point out that we have blown up multiple PowerPoints with fuses, deactivated security to one of his bases. he has slight reason to be a little upset about that.
He's gotta figure out how to really work with other people, and he's not good about letting people in. Mm-hmm. He's gotta let down those walls and let people in, Blue.
Tells of all of that. Gotta let those walls down.
Nope.
I mean, Ikora
There's too many Titans supporting him.
Yeah, all those dead bodies at the bottom.
All those dead bodies at the bottom.
Oh my god.
Yeah. That's how they hold the walls up.
A wall does not keep out the rain.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Did you see Taylor's response? Yes, it does. You built the wall wrong if you... Anyways, continue. Spacewalk.
Spacewalk. Beautiful music. Fun little mechanic. There is no gravitational difference, so your jumps are going to perform the same, but because of the elongation of the jumps, like you have to jump much further, it feels a lot more slow in some ways. I don't think there's any actual change in how the mechanics work. It just feels more spacewalky. What do you think, Orchid?
I always mute him when I do the jumping puzzle because I don't want to hear him talk.
Yeah.
Because he ruins it for me. Because I'm like, God, shut your freaking mouth.
Shut your rat hole.
Shut your rat hole.
So chat's right now debating whether it's actually Clovis AI or it's a Clovis assistant AI. Either way, it's the annoying man's voice. Whether or not it's the AI that we wake up or it's the AI in there, I don't remember.
But it's the same. It's the same voice, right?
But it's the same voice. It's the same annoying voice, and it's the same attitude that you're getting.
Yeah.
That megalomaniac attitude, and you have this beautiful jumping through all the things with him just berating you as you're walking along and jumping along, and the beautiful music in the background, and you find another code outside before you go into the almost last room-ish. The last room of the space station.
Yeah. You have to jump back in. There is a hidden pad that you can get when you're out there on your spacewalk. There is a hidden chest that you can get out there on the spacewalk. There is a spinning doohickey that I call like the dumb halo that I always get hit by like 5 or 6 times on the stupid spacewalk, and then I just like float down because I'm a warlock, so I just like float slowly to my doom, and it's very poetic and beautiful because like the Deep Stone lullaby is swelling, and I'm like, this is a really beautiful way to die because you just see Jupiter in the background, and you're like, oh, this is the best. You're like, oh, I'm gonna die. This is amazing, and then you're dead, and you're just. Yeah. And everyone else is hearing, Guardian down! And you're just there with, like, Orchid again. Really? And I'm like, quiet, guys, I am enjoying this. And then I just, like, make sure I fall slower because I'm, like, trying to time the swelling music to my death.
I bet if you timed it just right, you could write a sonnet as you're gliding down.
I probably
and
could.
Floof. Oh, goodness. The file that you find outside the door before you see, is it Taniks the first time, is DSC 777 or likely DSC 777 SCB. I activate this and it all goes away. Sniffles. Cheers to that. Blue postulated that it's Sylvie Bray, which isn't Sylvie the grandmother? Mom? Who's the grandmother? Grandmother has a name too. Sassy grandma who basically said that Clovis ain't.
The best grandma ever.
Yeah.
The one, yeah, I like her. Hang on, I'll look it up. I'm really annoyed that I don't know that off the top of my head. Sylvie was Clovis Bray II's wife. Who gotcha. She also did not have a high perspective of Clovis. I mean, I
don't know too many.
I was about to say,
Willa
I'm like,
did.
And I don't even know if Willa really technically had it. Because when you get Willa's entry from the raid gear, she also has a few not nice things. That's the entire reason that she was developing Siva. It was a competitiveness to the Exo program. She was trying to achieve immortality in her own way.
We knew that from the Siva memory fragments.
Yeah. It just it got solidified with Luisa.
Yeah.
Luisa. Remember we had this conversation.
Lucia. I can't pronounce words.
She lives within the nature preserve, partly because it's home and partly because she's avoiding her husband. But yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Sylvie
next mechanic.
Sylvie is talked about in the Legacy Oath's cowl for the Warlock armor.
Gotcha.
We get her introduced. Actually, we are introduced to her through the eyes of Elsie after she has been made an Exo. And Sylvie does not take kindly to that. She has very similar views of Clovis the First as Lucia does.
That would mean that Sylvia's Elsie's mom.
Correct.
Or
She is the mother
Elsie
of
and Willa.
And Alton.
And what?
And Alton. Yeah. I think. I want to say that those three are full siblings.
So the last one you actually pick up to before you get to this, the third part. Because the third part is when you crash the Morning Star.
The station?
Yeah. Into Europa.
Right, but there's a battle up top, though, first, with Taniks, right? Because that's the introduction of the blue augment. Which is the drone augment. But I don't remember its actual title. It's the role that I got to play. The drone augment where you have to go from drone to drone and you have to tag him. You have to tag Taniks in each area.
Well, you have to get you still get the last one before this part, because this is you still get
before
you
the
still
final
get this
two
last
scenes.
One
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to read that one then?
Yeah. The last one is DSC 777 CLB. I'll set whispers on the wind for any future generations. Tales of the evil Clovis Bray brought forth. Which we are assuming CLB is Clovis Bray.
It's really interesting that is her decision to move forward, is to try to sully the name.
Well, it's the biggest insult that she can put against him.
It really is.
But
or one of the biggest insults is to not just deny him the immortality that the exoscience program offers, but also to slander his name for eternity, so that he is. It's like you take it. You take his gift and you poison it. You poison the well, because it's like, yeah, you're immortal, but you're immortal because everyone remembers you for being a monster, not for being the Luca or the savior. You're the Dr. Frankenstein of this whole thing. It's
honestly, I don't feel like Clovis would feel that bad about it because he's still getting remembered.
But also remember, she is destroying this entire process. So she's trying to. Right. Sorry, yeah. So she's doing like a dual thing. She's denying him the benefit of the immortality of becoming this Luca, is the last universal. What was it? Last universal common ancestor, I think is what it was. So she's in the process of trying to destroy this, and she's setting down all these like as she calls whispers for the future generations of like, this is the boogeyman. This is like, so sure, he'll be remembered, but he's not going to be present. He's not going to be the Luca. He's going to be remembered as this fairy tale villain in her, like in the presentation. That's how I kind of took it, is like, she's sullying his name for eternity so that a person who is a megalomaniac, who's a narcissist, that is a huge blow. There's so many things I want to say about current events that I'm not going to. She is denying him his Twitter account for eternity, and that is really a painful thing for someone of that personality, because she's taking this thing that, he kind of values above most everything, and is like, oh, rubbing some dirt on it, but rubbing some dirt on it in a way that it's like, it's now dirtied and lesser than it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's so many things, so many correlations. I know Chad is just reeling at your.
I'm sorry.
Your
I've tried so hard to not laugh. You have no idea.
I mean, I'll be honest. That's literally when I read that. That's immediately what came to mind. I was like, it's well done, because Clovis is a megalomaniac. He is a narcissistic a-hole who looks down on everybody and looks to manipulate things so that he is always the perfect example of, in his own world, the perfect example of fill in the blank. And so what I read Elsie is doing here is basically using that as a psychological warfare against him. Like, she's like, not only am I going to, throw a figurative and literal nuke into your machine, I'm also going to make sure that anytime someone thinks of your name, instead of being like he's this wonderful, whatever, it's like, no, they get sick at the mention of your name. Like, they see you as the detriment to humanity, not the savior. You're everything that we don't want to be.
Yeah. Politics aside,
Veru
megalomania
aside. Has the best. I will become the Luca. This claim is disputed.
Taniks fight. First Taniks fight. Taniks with legs fight. Let's say that. Up in space, you're still on the Morning Star. You're still on the space station. It's a fairly straightforward fight. You're using the same augments. You add the new augment of whatever the name of the blue one is. I cannot think of it. Mm-hmm. And you are managing a lot of enemies, and everybody has their job, and once you do your job, it goes by very quickly. I barely remember the fight because the team I was with was very good at it. So, Orchid, do you have some other insights that I don't know? Something about putting a bomb in a box at some point.
So you have the scanner operator and suppressor buffs that you want to use, and you have nuclear cores that you need to drop into boxes. So you collect them and swap them to other players as needed. So the suppressor actually shoots Taniks while standing under these drones. And nuclear cores are deposited in the boxes. It's all just kind of chaos. But once you have your tasks and you're doing callouts, it's like fairly easy.
It's fast,
It's
too.
very fast, and everyone just kind of does their own thing, and you just have some swords out and just kind of like swipe at everything as you can, as you like run through. And there are radiation debuffs. So you have to make sure that you get rid of it before 10, because you'll die otherwise. So you can swap them between players, so you don't. So, but
the augments have to be swapped out to every once in a while, because you'll get it taken away, right? That's what happens. Or I know it's the suppressor. You'll switch more than likely at least once, but the bombs that you're placing or the cores that you're placing are what ends up blowing up the station. Right? Like, am I remembering that right? Like, that's the reason the station blows up at the end.
Yeah.
It's because we're planting these cores.
Yeah, exactly. So we're putting bombs and we're getting readied, so it'll definitely do explodey bits. Because we don't want it to explode when it hits the ground.
Well, what you're doing is you're destroying the components within it that were installed to drive it down, and then you're also breaking it apart so that when it does start, that's where the Hard Rain quest comes in, is because these are the fragments of the Morning Star that we broke apart. They are coming down, but it's like meteor showers instead of extinction level meteor.
Yeah. The one thing you want to look out for when you're actually doing this encounter is to watch the windows as you're doing it, because it'll catch on fire, and it's actually kind of cool. That's really the only thing you want to look out for.
As far as like a environmental
an environmental thing.
And then after you do all the things and you complete it to the point where it triggers the next section, you run for your life. To try to get away from Taniks.
It does look pretty great. And when you look behind you and he's just like bearing down on you.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, it's great.
It's the benefit of having legs, right?
Let me tell you, the only time I played this raid, I played it as a warlock, and I was trying so hard to get away from him.
You're like, where's my speed?
Sentinel Grey laughed at me the entire time. It was fine. But you finally get into a room where it's this chamber, mostly empty looking. You're able to slam the door behind you. You see Taniks kind of charging down the entire time. And then you fall back down to Europa.
Thus completing the pyramid.
Yes,
Almost.
The pyramid shaped circle.
Ish. Sure. You crash back in front of the exact same place that you go into the Deep Stone Crypt, but now there's pieces of the Morningstar area all over it. There's just like 3 different sections, and in the middle is a giant pile of shrapnel and all these pieces, and somehow Taniks builds himself a wheelchair real fast because he's got broken legs from falling.
That's what happens when you have a USB as a body.
You just plug it in,
Plug
it in.
He's a plug and play exo is what he is.
Oh, poor Taniks.
Poor Taniks. Poor Taniks.
Orchid might have thoughts on this.
The next thing he's gonna plug into like a toaster next. You know that's gonna.
That's what we're gonna purchase is the Taniks Jotun toaster. It's gonna have a little thing of Taniks on it.
Jotun toaster. That would be.
I want somebody to put a Taniks sticker on it now.
I don't want to sully the Jotun toaster with a Taniks.
It's not gonna. You're not gonna sully a Jotun anything by putting anything on it. You'll just make it
you're
better.
right, because the Jotun is too cool.
Sure, that's the direction I was going. Yes,
Yep.
all the time.
Yep.
Oh.
Jotun toaster's way too cool.
Directions were unclear. USB is now stuck in toaster.
Blue falls off my screen. I have a different webcam than what Stream can see. He just disappeared. Final fight though is pretty much everything we've learned before.
Mm-hmm.
You have a suppressor, you have scanners, you have operators. There's also is it a debuff where you're carrying your gather? It's not radiation. Is it radiation?
Yeah, it's radiation.
It's totally.
Is that herd thinner?
Before.
Okay.
Is that the herd thinner thing?
It's a what?
Is that the herd thinner? Or is that
Herd thinner?
I don't know.
You're carrying the nuclear bombs to the boxes again
never mind.
in the different sections.
Never mind.
And you have to trade off often with a teammate before you get there. Otherwise, the person gets too much radiation. The other thing is Taniks will trap you in like a little web.
Yes, it's like a bubble. Like a jelly bubble.
Who is it? Is it the operator that has to shoot it off?
Yes.
Right. And then what is the suppressor has to obviously suppress him at certain points, but there's only a few points that he can do that.
Yeah, so you get it twice. So you can split into three. You can split into 3 teams of 2. 1 team for each corner. You get all 3 augments again. You want to call out which core buckets are active, just like before. You want to shoot Taniks's legs to drop the cores.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's got like his weird little spindly leg things because he's now a flying dumpster fire. So you grab the cores and you carry them to the buckets. Like switch because you're not gonna make it mostly. Like you got to have a buddy. So the operator will shoot the purple jelly ball. And then that's pretty much it. And you do that until you can do 4 nuclear cores. You can do 4 cores at once. I've never done 4, but I know you can. And then you just do the damage phase, which is a giant blender of doom.
Yes, and the electric
Bungalow. Blender of doom, and then it just kind of rinse and repeat.
Yeah, it's a fairly straightforward encounter. It didn't seem like there were... I'm sure it's more straightforward now for the people who did not do it day one, but do we have any outside... blah, 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 words are hard. Any outstanding questions about...
Yes, 2. We talked about Aramis's in-game with the Fallen. We talked about that in the intro session. I originally was thinking we were going to talk about it in this session, but we didn't. Second one is a question I think Orchid had from one of her contacts was, is Taniks dead finally? The answer is, until we need him again, yes.
Yeah, because...
So the answer is no. Yeah, he's not dead. Taniks is... a cockroach. And then my endlessly infuriating question of the connection of Bacchus the Adamantian with Atrax 1. Green, this goes back to that conversation we had on the behind the scenes stream in December with the connection with Mask of Bacchus. There is a big theory that Bacchus was instrumental in helping create Atrax 1. The problem there is that we killed Bacchus well before a lot of this happened. So question there is like, how does that align with the timing necessarily. I don't know if if Green, you had any thoughts further on that.
I mean, you and I were working on that little puzzle with Matthew, trying to figure out the timing of everything, and I don't think I have any more thoughts than what we've discussed already.
Okay. Yeah, because I know, let's see, we go after Bacchus in, right after we take out Praxis, we take out Bacchus. Right before the Glassway strike. And the Glassway strike is before we have the cutscene. If I remember correctly, we have the cutscene of Aramis telling Atrax to go prepare the body. Well, trying to remember exactly where that it falls, but it's all pretty close together. So technically, I guess there's some room that you could argue that Bacchus would be present. Bacchus was the captain that Aramis set as being responsible for gathering the House of Devils and all of their weaponry from the Cosmodrome. And so when there's a point after we defeat the Praxis where the Guardian goes back to the Cosmodrome and you meet up with Shahan, and basically you have to go hunt down Salvation Elites to hunt down the Bacchus, where she is hiding in the Exodus Garden 2A Lost Sector. So when we defeat Bacchus, we basically put a stop to the recruitment of the House of Devils and all of the spider tanks that they were preparing to send to Europa, which then prompts Aramis into kicking off the Glassway strike. So that's where you kill Bacchus and you immediately have to go back to Europa to jump into the Glassway to stop. What we believe her to be doing is we think initially that she's trying to basically strong arm the Vex into helping her. What it turns out is that no, she's actually gathering the radiolarian fluid for creation of Alcahest to then further create Atrax 1 and possibly Taniks the Abomination. So that's where my confusion on Bacchus being argued that was being instrumental in the creation of Atrax 1, because the Mask of Bacchus is a conversation between an unknown party and Atrax about the equivalent of DER for the Fallen. It's a conversation about how Atrax needs to let go of her face, basically, of the mask that was her face. And so then they give her you're going to get a little grotesque here real quickly. Basically, whoever's speaking gives her a knife and has her carve off her own face. And that is where the Mask of Bacchus helmet comes from. Is basically it is then forged into a mask, which is given to Bacchus, and it's used as a way that every time Atrax sees that helmet, it will remind her that she is not flesh and blood anymore. She is something more. Yes. So that's where my confusion on the connection between those two, I'm not sure. But that's the only outstanding question I've had. All right, well, I guess read that card as internal dialogue. Very was saying the campaign was kind of like the Clovis Beret journal in reverse with the Elixni as characters. So yeah. Yeah, I guess Shoutouts is next, and then we can wrap up the first 2021 stream of Focus Fire.
Oh my god.
Green, what do you got for us?
My shoutouts are actually for the community managers, both DMG and Cosmo right now. Just having to manage all the BS going on with just the two of them, because they've had a little bit of a drop in their numbers as far as community managers or community help or community liaisons, and they're having to handle a lot of things on their own, and just kind of keep patience out there for them for some of the stuff they're dealing with right now.
That's true.
All good.
I guess shout out to the Destiny community in general, to the people who have been able to have opinions and not been super toxic about it. There's a lot of toxicity, which is natural for the Destiny community, because when is there not toxicity in the Destiny community? Legitimately, we can't go a single freaking week without saying something. But it seems like it's been worse lately, because I don't know if we're bored or something, but something my mom used to say to me is, if you have nothing nice to say, then don't say it. So maybe do that, guys.
It's a good policy.
Yeah. I would call you what I usually call my own chat, but I'm not going to, because this is a family-friendly Christian Minecraft stream. So
YMCA strike.
Yeah.
I like
Exactly.
Green's slant eyes there. Yeah, no, I'll kind of back that. I think that, again, with everything going on this past year, what everything's going on in the current year so far, we've only had the 7 or 8 day trial period so far, but it looks like it's going to continue to be insane. I think that it double downs on the importance of kindness and of patience and of willingness to hear other people's opinions and understand that they are opinions, not facts. Same as your thoughts and opinions are exactly that. No one has an absolute answer, and everyone has a valid perspective. You may not agree with it. There is an argument to be made on if it's 100% valid. Of course, there's different things, harmful and all that. But without going down the nuance level there, I think that the art of conversations and of civil discourse is a very important skill that we need to we really need to figure out how to get back. And I think that for all the benefits that social media has brought to the table, one of the things that it has not has been exactly that. We have found, on the different sites that I've been part of and that I've watched, the creation of echo chambers is extremely easy, and it's very dangerous. And I think we're kind of seeing the fallout of those specific things. So, that being said, just again, patience, kindness, just treat other people. Just treat them like human beings. That's what they are. It doesn't matter if you agree with them or not. They deserve the basic respect of a human being. And I think that if you do that, I have a strong opinion that it's really hard to mess that up. If you're treating people like they're living, breathing people, it's kind of hard to mess that up. It's not impossible, but it takes some doing. But yeah, with all that being said, without diving too far into the weeds and getting myself in trouble, I will just say, as always, thank you for your time. And until next time, remember, with wisdom we conquer. Stand strong, stand tall, and keep exploring. With that, we'll begin to wrap the chat up. Thank you again to those over on Twitch for coming to spend your evening with us. If you'd like to join us for the live streaming of the episodes, please be sure to give us a follow over on twitch.tv/FocusedFireChat. Links to all our episode archives can be found at www.thelorenetwork.com. Please be sure to email us at focusfirechat@gmail.com with any comments and or questions for the team concerning the podcast, and let us know how we're doing by giving us some feedback and a rating over on iTunes as well. So until next time, focus your fire, and may your light shine bright.
You've been listening to a Robots Radio podcast. Smart shows for interesting people. Check out all the shows at robotsradio.net.